What if I told you that in cities across America, politicians are fighting harder to protect violent illegal immigrants than to protect your family? In this episode of Two Sense Unfiltered, we expose the shocking truth behind the latest ICE raids that removed gang members, drug traffickers, and convicted child predators from our streets, only for Democrats to cry foul and paint the criminals as victims. We're talking about offenders with rap sheets a mile long, sexual crimes against minors, assault, weapons charges, yet progressive leaders call it inhumane to deport them. Meanwhile, families, immigrant and American born, are the ones paying the price as sanctuary cities block federal agents and protect predators over children. Why does the radical left defend criminals? Why does the media lie about ICE raiding schools? And why is common sense law enforcement now considered controversial? In this episode, we pull back the curtain on political agendas, media fear mongering, and the ideological blindness destroying public safety. If you want the truth behind the chaos, unfiltered, unapologetic, and backed by facts, this is the episode you cannot miss. Subscribe now, hit play, and prepare to rethink everything you've been told. Welcome back to Two Sense Unfiltered, the show where truth doesn't get sugar-coated, politicians don't get safe spaces, and the narrative makers don't get the last word. Today's episode dives into something genuinely insane. Why are Democrats defending violent illegal immigrants, including gang members, child predators, and repeat offenders, as if they're the victims? Let me introduce you to three names the media hopes you never hear. Wistigen's Jean Kelly Charles, a Haitian street gang member with 17 convictions, drugs, weapons, assault, battery. Ariel Rene Romes Patino, a Mexican national sentenced to 62 months for sexual exploitation of a child. Christopher Alexander Ramirez Oliva, a Honduran convicted of third-degree criminal sexual conduct involving a minor. These men weren't working restaurant jobs, mowing lawns, or seeking a better life. These men were predators, and President Trump's targeted ICE raids finally removed them from U.S. communities. But somehow, in the warped political universe of the modern left, removing violent criminals is controversial. Let's make something crystal clear. These raids weren't rounding up day laborers. They weren't knocking on doors in the middle of the night to grab parents making minimum wage. These raids removed hundreds of offenders across major cities. Boston, San Francisco, Seattle, Chicago cities drowning in crime because local leadership refuses to cooperate with federal authorities. And what did Democrats do? Did they commend ICE for removing violent predators? Did they stand with victims? Did they reassure anxious immigrant families that ICE is only targeting criminals? Nope. They attacked ICE, they defended the criminals, and they painted law enforcement as the villains, as if these arrests were an assault on humanity and not a gift to public safety. How did this become controversial? Only in the modern Democratic Party can arresting a child rapist be spun as inhumane. Think about that. In any rational society, removing gang members, drug traffickers, weapons offenders, child predators would be non-controversial. It would be expected. It would be applauded. But with today's Democrats, it's a moral crisis. It's oppression. It's racism. It's tearing families apart. No, it's protecting families, period. So what changed? The Democratic Party didn't just move left. It fell off a philosophical cliff. They pretend every illegal immigrant is a lovable Disney character who wandered across the border holding a dream and a lunchbox. They refuse to acknowledge a difference between a hardworking immigrant trying to live a peaceful life and a man who sexually assaults a child. They flatten every case into one narrative, victim of oppression, but there's a darker reason behind the outrage. The two real reasons Democrats lie about ICE. Reason number one, the Democratic Party needs illegal immigrants to appear as helpless victims so they can appear as heroes. This is political branding, not compassion. Democrats claim ICE raids target everyone. Immigrants live in fear. Trump is hunting families. They say this even when ICE publishes exact data showing the focus is on criminals. Why? Because fear is a political weapon. If Democrats convince immigrant communities that Republicans want to arrest everyone, then those communities become dependent on Democratic protection. It's not empathy, it's strategy. They're not shielding immigrants from Trump. They're shielding their own political interests from reality. Reason number two, the radical left genuinely believes criminals are victims of society, even when the victims are children. This is ideological rot. As I break down extensively in What's Killing America, progressive ideology views criminals as victims, victims as props, and law enforcement as villains. They believe crime is caused by oppression, punishment is unjust, borders are immoral, deportation is racist, consequences are optional. So when a violent criminal is deported, even a child predator, they don't see justice, they see oppression. This isn't a political disagreement. It's a moral disconnect. The left's worldview is so distorted, they reflexively defend the criminal because accepting his guilt would require admitting their policies produce real victims. They can't do that. So instead, they attack ICE, attack Trump, and attack anyone who wants violent offenders removed. Let's zoom in on Chicago, where Mayor Brandon Johnson has turned protecting criminal illegal immigrants into a civic virtue. He has doubled down on sanctuary policies so extreme they do the following: prevent cooperation with ICE, shield violent offenders, block communication between city agencies and federal authorities, release dangerous criminals back into communities. ICE arrests a gang member. Johnson scolds ICE. ICE apprehends a sex offender. Johnson accuses the government of terrorizing families. ICE removes a convicted criminal. Johnson panics about human rights. Does he think a child predator deserves a second chance over the safety of actual children? Or is he just terrified of upsetting the activist wing of the Democratic Party, the same activists who equate borders with fascism and consequences with cruelty? Sanctuary policies were never meant to protect criminals, but under leaders like Johnson, that's exactly what they do. And every time another offender is released instead of deported, real families, innocent families, pay the price. Now let's talk about the media, the amplifier of every deceptive narrative. Outlets like Politico, Los Angeles Times, local liberal stations across the country all push the same nonsense. ICE raids traumatize communities. Immigrant children afraid to attend school. Federal agents stalking playgrounds. It's all fiction. ICE isn't raiding elementary schools. ICE isn't snatching parents at recess. ICE isn't arbitrarily rounding up families. They target criminals, individuals already in the system with violent records, but the media sells fear because fear gets clicks, fear gets donations for activist groups, fear makes Democrats look like protectors, fear fuels outrage against Trump. So the press isn't reporting, they're campaigning, and like any political campaign, the truth is optional. Let's dismantle one of the left's favorite talking points. Deportations hurt the economy. Explain to me how deporting a gang member, a meth dealer, a weapons trafficker, a convicted sexual predator hurts the economy. Do they create jobs, start businesses, invest in communities, generate taxable income? No, they cost taxpayers money. Police responses, court proceedings, prison expenses, victim compensation, increased security costs. Removing violent criminals strengthens the economy because safety is the number one driver of business stability, neighborhood growth, consumer activity, school performance, property value. A safe community is a prosperous one. And predators destroy safety. This argument isn't just wrong, it's delusional. Another big talking point: deportation tears families apart. Let's be brutally honest. When a man sexually assaults a minor, when a man joins a violent gang, and when a man traffics drugs, he is the one tearing his family apart, not ICE. ICE doesn't create the crime. The criminal creates the crime. ICE doesn't break the law. The criminal breaks the law. ICE doesn't harm the child. The criminal harms the child. Democrats use emotional language as a shield, not to protect families, but to protect their ideology from scrutiny, because if consequences are justified, their policies collapse. Let's talk about the real victims, because Democrats never will. 1. Law-abiding immigrants. These families want criminals gone more than anyone. They know the danger firsthand. They live near the gang activity. They see the drug dealing. They hear the violence. Many ICE tips come from immigrants themselves. Democrats ignore them. 2. Citizens trapped in high-crime communities. These neighborhoods suffer increased violence, reduced business investment, slower police response, higher trauma rates, destabilized schools, all because leaders won't enforce the law. 3. Children, the most defenseless victims. Every time a predator is protected instead of deported, a child remains at risk. Where are the tears then? Where is the compassion? Where is the activism? Nowhere. Because these kids don't fit the narrative. Why Trump's approach worked. Love him or hate him, Trump's targeted ICE strategy worked. He prioritized violent offenders, repeat criminals, traffickers, gangs, sex offenders, and it made communities safer. Crime dipped when violent immigrants were removed. Neighborhood stability improved, police workloads lightened, families felt safer. This issue, more than most, helped deliver Trump's decisive win last November. Americans want safety, Americans want consequences, Americans want sanity. Trump delivered all three. This debate isn't about immigration, it's about criminality. It's about whether America has the moral backbone to protect communities, immigrant and native-born, from violent predators. No one is calling for deporting. The landscaper, the restaurant worker, the farmhand, the single mom cleaning houses, but defending child rapists, defending gang members, defending predators, absolutely indefensible. And if Democrats cannot or will not draw the line between a hardworking immigrant and a violent criminal, then they are not fit to lead, not morally, not politically, not in any capacity. This is why Americans voted the way they did. This is why trust in democratic leadership is collapsing. And this is why the fight for common sense, real common sense, is more important than ever. Thank you for joining me on Two Sense Unfiltered. If you're tired of the lies, tired of the spin, tired of politicians protecting criminals instead of children, then stick with me. We're just getting started.